It appears to be just another typical day in the city when all of a sudden there is a traffic bottleneck that makes the local drivers quite angry. An unidentified businessman has abruptly halted his car in the middle of the road due to total blindness. He receives assistance from a number of individuals, and one man offers to drive him home. However, the moment they arrive and the businessman gets out of the car, the thief takes off with the vehicle. The robber leaves the businessman stranded outside and comes back moments later posing as someone else to assist him in getting to his apartment and offer to stay with him for the day. This time, however, it is unsuccessful. The businessman has learned his lesson and once safe inside his house, drives the robber out. When the businessman's wife arrives a few hours later, she takes her husband to see a specialist as soon as she finds out about his blindness. They can go first, since the doctor lets them cut in line because it's an emergency. Sadly, the doctor examines the businessman's eyes with every device available, but he is unable to detect any evidence of disease or injury, indicating that the condition must be neurological. The doctor has never heard of anything like this before, but the businessman will need to visit the hospital and undergo some testing there. Following the couple's departure, the doctor sees his other patients, who include a man wearing an eye patch, a woman wearing sunglasses, and a youngster. As all of this is going on, the criminal is driving the stolen car around town and dodging the police until he is forced to stop since he has also become blind. When an officer takes him to his former residence, after he ends up going to the police for assistance, his ex-wife won't let him inside. Later on in the evening, the woman in sunglasses visits a hotel, and upon requesting a drink from the waiter, she goes upstairs to see her client. Everything about their meeting seems promising, but the afterglow is destroyed when she starts acting strangely and her vision goes white. All goes smoothly when they wake up the following morning, and the doctor discovers he is blind as well. The doctor returns home and enjoys a wonderful meal with his wife. When they notify the hospital about a potential infection that may be circulating, they are taken seriously because the youngster is also present, but blind. Before long, incidents of abrupt blindness start happening throughout the city, and the government starts acting to put an end to it. The authorities shut down the doctor's office and remove the physician to a quarantine area. His wife chooses to fabricate a story about being blind in order to be placed in quarantine alongside him, since she can't bear the thought of being apart from him. The pair is sent to a deserted asylum. Not even other medical professionals will be billeted there. Every ward has a phone that can be used to contact the guards outside, but it is only meant to be used in an emergency, and only a representative from each ward is allowed to use it. Before long, more people begin to show up, including the businessman, the kid, the woman in sunglasses, and the thief. The doctor and his spouse decide to keep her sight a secret. When they arrive, the doctor's wife acts as a guide for everyone, helping them with tasks like using the restroom by acting as though she has already explored and memorized the area. When the thief follows the woman wearing sunglasses on their first exit from the room, she becomes a touch too handsy and kicks him in the leg in retaliation. Since there isn't a first aid kit around, the doctor and his wife have to bandage the large cut caused by her heel using a shirt. Later, fearing she would also wake up blind, the doctor's wife can't sleep due to thoughts of the thief's leg perhaps being infected. She chooses to go for a stroll as a calming activity, as the doctor tries to get flirtatious with her. More people show up the following morning, and the businessman is reunited with his wife, while the child bemoans the absence of his mother. The doctor and his spouse attempt to negotiate with the guards, asking for assistance with the thief's leg, but the guards just threaten them and point their weapons at them, forcing them to return to their chamber. After a while, they get their first box of food, which is just as horrible as the cafeteria at a jail or school and is similarly insufficient. The doctor's wife tries using the emergency phone to beg for extra food and a first aid kit, but nobody picks up her call save for an answering machine where she leaves plenty of messages. As the weeks go by, an increasing number of afflicted individuals are admitted to the asylum every day. The doctor's spouse marks the first ward with a cloth line to serve as a guide, but maintaining order quickly becomes problematic. People soon lose interest in neatness because they are all blind, and they start going around naked and urinating in the middle of the corridor. The businessman attempts to cheer himself up by talking to his wife about their early years, but she finds it unbearable to even consider those days. When the doctor's wife hears a disturbance one afternoon, she finds out that the eye patch guy has been listening to a radio in private. Since everyone is anxious to learn what is going on outside, she persuades him to tell everyone the news. The eye patch guy clarifies that not many stations remain, but he managed to get the overall idea. During the first 24 hours, hundreds of cases were reported, and the government handled them all by ordering the blind people to the asylum and requesting that everyone else stay at home. Subsequently, the general public was forced to witness how experts from all over the world convened for lengthy discussions in which they essentially pretended not to understand the subject matter. Before long, the disease spread to other countries and even afflicted experts. When people sought to leave their homes because they were fed up with waiting inside, soldiers were alert and detained anyone who disobeyed them. The continuing automobile wrecks and the falling of planes contributed to the mayhem that engulfed the metropolis. Because they are also blind, the government is doing nothing to stop the city from turning into a desert as a result of the citizens' decision to stay at home out of fear. A guy is shot by the soldiers to demonstrate their ferocity after they bring a sizable group of sick people to the asylum a few days later. The victim had accidentally fallen off the line. The gunshot sounds set off a chain reaction that sends individuals running inside, shoving and sometimes smashing the doors as they do so. And worst of all, no soldiers show up to take the body away. The doctor's wife asks for a shovel, which the troops toss into the center of the yard without getting off their towers, thinking they can bury it themselves. The doctor's wife begs for instructions as she is still acting blind, and the soldiers tease her until she locates the shovel and points the finger at them. In the meantime, 2 more individuals have been shot, so the doctor is trying to get in touch with the representatives of the other wards to arrange for the burials. He also wants to talk about the issue that one of the wards was consuming more food than what was reasonable. After growing weary of the doctor acting like a boss, the bartender proclaims himself to be the king of Ward 3, giving his ward free reign to eat anything they want before they even think about assisting with the dead. Later, the wife of the doctor visits the thief, who is feverish due to a terrible infection in his leg. The wife attempts to remain encouraging, but the thief abruptly threatens her by revealing that he is aware that she is not blind. This leads the wife to finally lose it and run back to her husband. The robber drags his body outside and lets the soldiers shoot him because he can no longer bear the torture and believes that waiting for things to end naturally will only be an exercise in suffering. The doctor's wife is worried that their marriage has changed into something akin to a nurse and patient rather than a married one, and she feels bad and starts to question if she should tell everyone the truth. The doctor prevents her from doing so. A while later, with the aid of the accountant, a resident of Ward 3 who has been blind since birth, the bartender locates the asylum's administrative office and has a better understanding of how to exist in this environment. The bartender declares over the PA system that he is going to become the asylum's king, and that the first rule he will impose is that guests will now have to pay for their meals. The bartender exposes his hidden card, that he was able to bring a revolver with him when he was transported to the asylum, when the rule is not well welcomed, and there soon ensues chaos near the food store as everyone battles for access. He threatens to shoot anyone attempting to steal, sends everyone running, and seizes charge of the food store. They declare they will be watching it all day. Some think about not cooperating, but when the enemy is armed, it becomes too risky. While she retains a pair of scissors she finds in a woman's bag, the doctor's wife starts gathering everything she can from the patients in her ward, including jewels such as wedding bands and anything they can locate in their pockets. The woman wearing sunglasses has become the child's surrogate mother and has promised to pay for him, even though he has nothing to provide. The accountant uses his knowledge to determine the quality of the items brought in by touching them at the food storage. The bartender, however, only allots a few boxes per ward, regardless of how precious the jewelry is, and he threatens anyone who dared to protest. People are forced to share one-person meals, and the doctor withdraws. When he feels inadequate, he is not in the mood to continue being a kind and compassionate leader. A woman wearing sunglasses comes up to console him, telling him that he cannot stop a gun from shooting, and they end up having some fun on the ground. When the doctor's wife discovers them as they're ending, she informs the sunglasses woman that she can see them and asks her to keep it a secret, letting her own guilt take care of the rest rather than creating a scene. A week later, the bartender declares that they will accept female service in exchange for food when everyone in the asylum has ran out of money to pay with. The soldiers respond that since they've given them everything they have, rationing is up to them when the doctor's wife goes outside to demand to know why fresh rations haven't arrived. When Ward 1 starts to argue over what to do next, the doctor interrupts, saying that they have no right to force the women to do anything. There will be no judgment or coercion from others, so it's up to the individuals who wish to volunteer. One woman eventually offers to help after giving it a lot of thought, and others are motivated to follow suit, including the wife of the doctor and the ladies wearing sunglasses. The wife reminds the businessman that she shouldn't be treated any differently and goes despite the businessman's attempts to prevent her from going. The women experience the worst night of their life when the accountant arrives to pick them up and brings them to the food storage room. These guys are really rough and aggressive. One of them even kills a woman by physically abusing her. The women returned with the body in their hands, prepared to clean her up and give her the proper send-off. So the doctor's wife requests that someone else go get the food in the morning. Later on that day, the accountant goes to another ward in search of more volunteers. Despite the fact that one of them didn't move much, he even musters the courage to visit Ward 1 and congratulate them on a job well done. When the doctor's wife tells him that one of the women was dead and they had used her in spite of this, he is left stunned. The doctor's wife eventually loses patience with all of this teasing and grabs the scissors to go to the storage room, where the women from Ward 2 divert attention. The accountant sees what has happened and gets the gun, but none of his shots hit the target. She kills the bartender with the scissors without thinking twice, then drags the females along with her. As she leaves, the doctor's wife declares that she will now be the one collecting the food if they don't release it, as more men will perish. The doctor is right when he fears that this may spark a conflict. Ward 3 blocks off the area while refusing to release the food. Before Ward 1 can take any action, one of the women decides to exact retribution. Ward 1 prepares to fight and reclaim what is theirs. She sneaks into Ward 3 and lights a fire with the lighter she's been carrying around in her pocket, as it turns out. Before panic sets in, the doctor's wife leads the guys out of the building as the flames spread quickly, killing numerous individuals. Interestingly, since the guards are no longer even inside their towers, nobody is shot. Not only are the doors unlocked, but this also implies that they have at last gained their freedom. As they make their way downtown, the doctor, his wife, the child, the eye patch guy, the sunglasses woman, the businessman and his wife resolve to stick together. It is then that they learn society has fallen apart. The city has turned into a post-apocalyptic wasteland where the few surviving residents roam around trying to live. Some animals are even eating corpses, and attacks break out between them, if they even suspect that one another could have food in their pockets. While they head to the closest market to see if they can find some food, the doctor and his wife leave the group hidden inside a pub. While the doctor gathers clothes, the wife of the doctor manages to see and locate a set of stairs that leads to a storage room, while the other patrons are grabbing at the few items still on the shelves. The woman fills a few bags and tries to leave, but as soon as they hear the noise the items in her bags create, they attack her and steal from her. Luckily, the doctor hears this and rushes to assist, shoving everyone aside and using his own body as a shield to separate the mob from his wife as they flee the building. A lovely puppy seizes the opportunity to approach and make friends with the wife as they get far enough away, and the wife takes a time to gather herself while the doctor returns to recover the garments he dropped on their way out. The wife unexpectedly starts to rain, surprising everyone, and she brings the dog into a church to wait for her husband under a dry roof. A priest will not stop propagating the word of God despite the extreme crowding in the church and the covered eyes of all the statues. People are using the opportunity to gather water outside and wash their bodies because they haven't had access to clean water in a very long time. The dog follows them, becoming their new friend, while the doctor returns with the clothing and scoops up his wife to rejoin the group. The gang decides to spend the night in the pub so they may recover properly after eating some rations there. The next morning, they leave again and make their way cautiously through the city to the doctor's and his wife's home, who have offered to share it with everyone. The group is able to form a routine after that. They share the doctor's clothes and clean the flat under the wife's supervision. They walk outside only to get food, and they gather water and wash it whenever it rains. The businessman's wife at last gets back in touch with her husband, and they share some recollections of their early days. The eye patch man says he wants to live with them forever because they have become a family. The doctor and his wife also get back together, and since she isn't as stressed out, she agrees to have some fun with him once more. A few weeks later, while everyone is preparing for breakfast, the businessman yells that the sudden blindness that had struck him earlier has vanished, and he is once again able to see. Everyone begins to celebrate when they realize that the sickness can be fought off by their bodies, and that blindness is only a temporary condition, restoring hope for their futures. We really hope you enjoyed today's recap of Blindness. Please leave a comment below of what you loved about the movie and why. Be sure to like the video, and please don't forget to support our channel by subscribing so you don't miss any amazing content. Until next time, lights, camera, action. We look forward to seeing you in our next video.